These are some of the most disturbing crimes that happen in the femcel community, and as the stories go on, they only get darker and darker. Now, a femcel is described as a woman who self-identifies as being unable to find a romantic partner despite desiring one, similar to an
I could have
incel,
figured
which
that
is
out.
the male counterpart. And with that, Audrey is
I'm not gonna lie. I don't feel like this is something that's supposed to be a thing. You know what I mean? I feel like most females don't have this issue regardless of how they look. I feel like there's always at least somebody out there. Um, I mean, same thing with guys, really, but I feel like it's a little bit less common to feel like, oh, there's somebody out there for everybody with a guy. But you get what I'm saying?
Elizabeth Hale was born on March 24th, 1995, in Nashville, Tennessee. As a biological female, Audrey would be addressed by several pronouns throughout his lifetime, including she, they, them, and he. But for the sake of this video, we will be
Very
addressing Audrey
confused.
as he, which was his preferred pronoun. Now, from a young age, Audrey's parent, Ronald and Norma Hale, noticed that he was particularly shy, highly sensitive to loud noises, and easily spooked by animals or large crowds. So by the time he was 6 years old, Norma decided to take Audrey for a mental evaluation, and this was when the doctors first diagnosed him as socially and emotionally underdeveloped. Now, following this diagnosis, Norma decided to hold him back from attending kindergarten for a year, hoping that would give him time to catch up to his peers. Now, in 2001, Audrey started attending the Covenant School, which was a private Christian elementary in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, to Norma and
Oh,
Ronald's
this is in
relief,
Tennessee
Audrey began
too.
coping well. He was friendly with the other kids, playful, and even got invited to sleepovers. It began to look like Norma made the right decision in holding him back. But everything changed in 2006 when Audrey graduated and moved on to Crestwell Middle School for the Arts, which was also in Nashville. Now, while the Covenant School was a private elementary in an upper middle class area, Crestwell was a public school that served mostly middle class families. And so at the school, Audrey soon discovered that he was one of the only white kids, which made him a subject of attention, as he was constantly addressed as the rich white girl. And suddenly,
I'm
Audrey
sure
turned
that's
from
what it
socially
was.
accepted to an outcast. Now, to make friends, he was encouraged by some of his peers to join the basketball team, the Lady Comets, where he actually started socializing. Now, he was still the only white person on the team, but whenever other kids would bully him, his team would stick up for him. Now, Audrey soon grew attached to them, especially two girls named Sydney and Paige. But no one expected that his attachment would grow into something far more intense. To Audrey's
Oh
confusion,
no.
he would soon find out that he'd developed romantic feelings for these two teammates.
Wait a minute. I thought this dude was set on what he wanted. You know what I mean? I didn't think it was just gonna change like that. I guess they're more confused than even they thought. I don't know.
However, the only problem was that he was a grade below them. So when 7th grade ended for Audrey in 2009, his teammates graduated middle school and left him behind, at which point he lost them all at once. Now, after graduating middle school himself in 2010, he tried to reconnect with them, but they had begun to develop other interests and friends, and they weren't really keen on reviving the old friendship. So instead, he silently monitored their social media and grew frustrated when he saw them get
That's
into
creepy as fuck.
relationships with boys. Now, despite this, Audrey continued to stalk the social media for the next few years. Now, by 2015, he was enrolled at Nassau College of Art in Nashville, Tennessee, and there Audrey would go on to win awards for his artistic talent. But Audrey's other grades began to fall, and Norma began to get concerned again. Now, he'd also developed anger management issues and a tendency for social isolation, which were clear signs of depression. And so, to address these issues, in his third year of college in 2017, he was booked into
I mean, I feel like lots of people have those kind of issues. Like sometimes people just don't like people. I don't, I mean, I have people that I'm around. I'm not just completely isolated, but like I really am skeptical of a lot of people. I don't like to be around too many.
patient
They're
care
bad. They're
for a
bad.
beauty clinic,
Bad.
and it
People
was
are
during
bad.
this period that he began telling his therapist about his desire to leave this world. Now, the same summer, he began to pour out his feelings into his notebooks as a way to cope with his thoughts, and he would end up
That's
writing a
healthy.
40-page story based on his life, the basketball team, and his feelings around it, a journal which he titled After the Comets. Now, in this story, Audrey recalled his memories from after his teammates left Crestwell, writing, I wonder how they're doing. I wonder how they'll do in high school. Will they say the same or change? Will they miss me or forget me? I prayed and hoped to God that they'd never forget who I was. Now, Audrey also wrote about staring at photographs of his teammates for hours on end, saying, I lived through that
That's
yearbook
super
many
creepy.
times to count, and it probably adds up to thousands of times.
Wait. Yo. This is reminding me of like Twin Peaks or something. This person's crazy. We're long, some weird and messed up. I can't even understand what they're saying. I can barely even remember, to tell you the truth, what happened that summer. I just remember missing those because they were all I thought all about along with blank. I always turn to our page in the yearbook,
a picture of us holding our third place trophy in the city. And Audrey spent a particularly long time thinking about Sydney. He remembered a game they once lost together, writing, "I specifically remember Sydney crying on the sidelines when the final buzzer went off." Audrey even went on to wear his teammate's jersey as a way of feeling closer to them. I saw a change.
Yo, listen, here's something that you guys need to understand. This person is not like the only person that does things like this. Anybody can be this way and like too attached to past things, but like I think that's sometimes just a sign that they don't have enough going on in their current life to be able to think about like now and the future. And I think that they need to get out of the past. You know what I mean? I feel like that's really unhealthy.
In you. I wore your legendary jersey, and you think there's no passionate meaning or reality that I freaking looked up to you and meant it. I am going ballistically, uncontrollably insane. And this was only the start of a lifelong obsession that he would document in his notebooks for years to come. And this would go on until the autumn of 2017, when Audrey started to go through a major change. Audrey then began to develop an obsession with mass shooters, particularly with Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the two shooters behind the Columbine High School massacre of April 20th, 1999. Now these two left behind a large collection of videos called the Basement Tapes.
Looks like a lunatic. Obviously this guy is a lunatic. If you guys don't know who this is, he was part of the Columbine shooting, but both of those guys are freaking nuts.
D-Day when they launched the brutal attacks, and Audrey would sit and watch.
Look at their eyes, bro.
Now he spent the better part of 2017 to 2020 fantasizing about his
can't even open my eyes that much
and becoming as infamous as Eric and Dylan, and would often also visit gun retailers to look at AR-15 style weapons. Now in October of 2020, he bought his first gun, a 5.56mm carbine, and began going on one-on-one firearm trading. So what began as imagined scenarios of a Columbine style attack turned into real plans. And in those plans, Audrey wanted exactly 3 things. For one,
still staying up late gaming solo?
This shit's so annoying. It's just so expensive for premium.
His target had to be a location that mattered to him. Secondly, Audrey knew he was small and weak, so it had to be a place no one could overpower. And finally, if he wanted to be remembered, it had to be a place
that's honestly some pushy shit.
Frenzy. And after reflecting on these 3 requirements, he eventually settled on Cresswell. But Audrey just had one problem with the plan. Due to the demographics of the students at the school, he thought his attack would look like a racist hate crime and ruin his legacy. He knew that ideally his target had to be predominantly white to work. And so taking this into consideration, he finally decided to attack the Covenant School instead. Now ironically, he found it fitting that, unlike Cresswell, it was the last place he remembered being happy, and coincidentally would also be where his life would end. Now, the planning would go on quietly until
Yo, that's freaking nuts. Like, dude, just go read a book or something. I don't know. This is not healthy. This is so insane. I don't understand how people get to this point. Or like where they idolize the other people that have done things like this, like the mass pew-pewers. I don't understand that kind of mindset where they think like, oh, I want to be like this guy. What? That doesn't make any sense to me at all, bro.
22, when Audrey was hit with a tragedy that completely sealed his fate. After years of watching her from a distance, Audrey found out that Sydney was killed in a car accident. And so the only person he had true feelings for, that he'd been watching from afar for 15 years, was suddenly gone. And with this devastating news, Audrey became even more focused on his plan. His biggest fear at this point was that if the plan failed, he'd be taken into custody alive. So Audrey also began surveilling the Covenant School, estimating how long the attack would take, and planning for it, while also listing the staff members in his journal. Now in the middle of all of this, Audrey attended Sydney's memorial service on August 26, 2022. And while the event was going on, he noticed that his former teammate, Paige, was also there. And although he was devastated by the events, Audrey was still happy to see Paige and approached her. But Paige, who was now a young adult, hadn't seen Audrey in years and was confused by his happy reaction. So she told him that it wasn't the time or place to actually talk. And so in the wake of Sydney's death and Paige's dismissal, Audrey fell deeper into depression. Then, just months later, Audrey began identifying as transgender, and he would use the names Audrey or Aiden interchangeably. Though for this video, we'll just continue addressing
Wait. So this guy didn't actually identify as trans before he joined the women's soccer team. I don't really understand how that works, but I thought this was a like been done kind of thing. Maybe I missed something.
Audrey, and so she refused to let Audrey dress as a man in the house. And Audrey would take this as further rejection of his chosen identity. And so under distress from multiple rejections now, he saw no reason to postpone the day of his death any longer. And so finally, he sat down to determine the date, using numbers that meant things to him. The basketball jersey numbers for him and his middle school teammates, his lucky number, his birthday, the date the Columbine attack occurred, and the number of people he cared about, like family and friends. And from these, he used a formula that only he could understand to make a list of dates. He then picked the date that aligned most with the anniversary of the Columbine shooting. So on March 27th, 2023, Audrey packed a red duffel bag with a semi-automatic AR-style pistol, a 9mm carbine, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, and placed it on his shoulder. Now on his way out of the house, Audrey actually bumped
That's
into
a
his
lot.
parents, and confused by his large bag, they confronted him. But Audrey simply told them not to worry, then looked down and made his way out the door, before his parents had actually any time to ask any more questions. Now Audrey then got into his car and made his way to the Covenant, where he parked in the elementary parking lot. Now in the car he pulled out a poem he'd previously written, which he called Death Day, and it reads, "I can't believe it's here. Don't know how I was able to get this far, but here I am. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm ready. I hope my victims are..."
Honestly, this person sounds so fucking weird doing all of this. Like, they sound like they're talking about like a big achievement at first, and then they talk about their victims not being ready. Like, this is not an achievement. You know what I mean? I feel like too many people do things like this and then they look at it like some kind of weird achievement, but it's not. Like, how can you feel some sort of gratification from doing something like this?
He then lingered just long enough to send Paige a message saying, "I'm planning to die today. You're probably going to hear about me on the news after I die." Now Paige actually immediately replied with concern, saying, "Audrey, you have so much more life to live. I pray God keeps and covers you." But Audrey simply told her, "I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to upset you or get attention. I just need to die." Now Paige then immediately called the local sheriff's office for assistance. But since she had no idea what Audrey's plans were, the officers couldn't really do anything to stop it at this point. Now unaware of what was going on outside the school, custodian
That's crazy.
Michael Hill, aka Big Mike, patrolled the halls of the school. He was cleaning the classrooms as he'd done for 14 years, not knowing that tragedy was about to strike within the next few seconds. Now knowing the doors would be locked, Audrey methodically walked up to the front of the Covenant and fired multiple shots through the glass door. Audrey then crawled through the door frame and made it into the front hallway. Now hearing the sound of shattering glass, Michael stepped into the hallway to investigate, but in doing so, he came face to face with an armed Audrey who instantly opened fire through the door frame.
Bro, that guy was just trying to make sure everything was good too. What the fuck? Like, okay, obviously nobody in the situation deserves anything like this. But like, I don't know, bro. Like, why can't they just go like I'm not saying this is okay because it's not okay to do things like this either, but why don't they go like hurt a bunch of bad people? You know what I mean? Why don't they go like hurt a bunch of like P3DOs or something like that? Somebody that's actually done something bad to somebody instead of just like random people.
Bleeding and wounded. The smoke from the gunshots then rose to a smoke detector that was directly overhead, which set off an automatic alarm and immediately unlocked the school's main doors. Now meanwhile, unsuspecting teachers inside the classroom gathered their students to leave the school for what they thought was just a fire
Yeah.
drill. And at the same time,
Damn.
61-year-old principal Dr. Catherine Coons was working from her desk, and concerned about what was going on, she quickly stepped out of her office to investigate the source of the alarm. Now in one of these classrooms was a group of third graders. Their substitute teacher Cynthia Peak began stewarding them into a single file line, and three students, Evelyn Decaus, William Kinney, and Hallie Scruggs, obediently stood from their seats. And William, who'd been elected fire line leader by his class, stepped to the front of the line. Hallie, who was the daughter of the senior pastor,
And fireline leader, y'all. That's the age we're talking about. We're talking about third graders. Fireline leader. Fucking put the marshmallow in your mouth and zip it. Like, what the fuck? These are little kids.
stepped up behind him, and Evelyn stood third beside her. Now they followed the steps they remembered from their last fire drill, walking calmly into the hall, and then into the stairway down from the second floor. Now meanwhile, Audrey walked through the halls off the floor beneath them, scanning from side to side. And at the end of the hallway were the stairs, and with a scan to the right, Cynthia and Audrey locked eyes. Though instantly, Audrey unloaded dozens of rounds into the stairway, where Cynthia and the students were. Evelyn, William, and Hallie, along with Cynthia, was struck by gunfire, but luckily the kids in the back of the line were able to turn and run up the stairs unharmed. Now hearing the gunshots, the other teachers began huddling their students together, away from entrances and barricading doors as they realized what was going on. But despite that, Audrey moved through the hallways, clearing classrooms one by one. Then she climbed the steps to the second floor, and Cynthia, who was still breathing, was lying on the steps as Audrey stepped over. Audrey then turned back and fired one more shot at Cynthia, at point blank range, ending her life in an instant. Meanwhile, on the floor above, Catherine was already walking toward the sound of gunshots, and as she reached the end of the hallway, that's when Audrey rounded the corner. Now they faced each other, and rather than run, Catherine challenged Audrey by asking what he was doing there, but Audrey simply responded to the challenge with rifle fire. Now the bullet round struck
Dang.
Catherine and knocked her to the ground.
Yo,
Audrey then
what a
ended her
set
life.
of balls on this lady, though. I'm so glad that she was willing to like stand up, but at the same time, I think she should have like ran. You know, I would have much rather this person not got hurt because they were willing to do that. But I mean, how do you react in that situation? I don't know.
with a shot from his
It's
pistol.
crazy.
And while all this was going on, two officers, Rex Engelberg and Michael Colazo, entered the school and headed straight to the top floor, looking
This
to eliminate
So
Archie
when I
as they
okay, hold
listened
on. When I was younger, there was cops in my school. Are there no cops in this school? Like, are there not cops in every school that like truancy officers, anything? I don't know. Like, I feel like there should be cops there already, right? For like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be like that.
top of the stairs,
Maybe
Archie
not
stood in
everywhere.
the left corner of the window. Now the two officers immediately engaged him in gunfire, and seconds later, body camera footage showed him unresponsive on the floor, fatally wounded. And after the scene was confirmed safe, medical staff confirmed that Evelyn, William, Hallie, Michael Hill, Dr. Catherine,
deserve that.
Cynthia, and finally Audrey were deceased. She'd unloaded 152 rounds during the attack that day. Now, investigators
some
then
bad
revealed a
people.
collection of 16 notebooks, 8 pen drives, 3 VHS cassettes containing the bedroom tapes where he documented his planning process, along with 3 laptops, various cell phones, and folders of documents concerning Audrey. His notes revealed that his goal was to take at least 10 lives, and for people to understand his thoughts and struggles. Now, in April 2025, the investigation was officially closed, after authorities confirmed that Audrey acted alone.
Bro, I feel like people like this are so willing to do something like this, but they're not going to go somewhere and like publicly speak about their issues. You know, they're not going to go somewhere and like talk to somebody. Like they could bring awareness by just like making a YouTube channel and talking about their issues there. Going somewhere and learning how to public speak. I don't know, like finding a way to host an event, doing something just to actually publicly speak and actually let people know. This is not letting anybody know anything except for that this person should have been caught way sooner. I don't know. It's just not helpful.